Part 10. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 94. After both of them changed their clothes, Aika's first action was to kneel down solemnly in front of Way 11 and sincerely put her head on the ground to apologize. Way 11 would never blame herself, but Aika was unwilling and would not use this to excuse herself. After Way 11's mood stabilized and she and Aika began to apologize to each other, he cautiously warned her. No matter what others say to you, don't believe it easily. The behavior just now should never be done easily, especially in front of the opposite sex. Aika unknowingly increased her tone. Yes, it's my fault. Way 11 also felt guilty in her heart. If it was just a normal hug, I could do better, but the posture just now was a bit unfamiliar. If you get used to it, I will have a headache. Woo. I'm not blaming you, actually. There was an itching feeling on her cheek, and Aika scratched it casually. I still have a little expectation. Seeing Way 11's eyes widen in surprise, he immediately waved his hands to explain. But we are all still students, and we should wait until we are older to do this kind of thing, so, well, that's what it means. I know. After knowing that Aika didn't dislike her body, Way 11 got rid of the dejected atmosphere, but the way you looked just now, it's done, right? Brother Aika, can I help you? Done? What do you mean? It's that kind of behavior. Way 11 covered her flushed cheeks with her hands. Just hug each other and twist your waist. The book my friend lent me only said so much. I feel like I've done it all, even though it may make you unhappy. Is that just this? Aika breathed a sigh of relief. If they are girls of the same age, these words are enough for them to understand. But Way 11's mind is spotless and she only does things literally, which turns out to be her luck. After returning, let Ling secretly check the books Way 11 brought back. There is no need to worry about the books in the library, but there are some contents in the magazines that are circulated among girls that Way 11 cannot read. Speaking of which, didn't you say you had something important to say? Well, it's like this. Way 11 took out her PDA and turned on the screen. The new incoming items were displayed on the screen. Can I see it? After taking Way 11's PDA, there were 2 messages from Chiuke listed on it. It's coming soon, waiting for us. The first one is from around 7 a.m. Are you not in the royal capital now? There is no need to rush here, there are still 2 days, as long as we can meet up by then. I won't bother you anymore, and I'll contact you when you have time. And this one was sent dozens of seconds ago. Way 11 only saw the first message, so she hurriedly called Aika up, mistakenly thinking that they had to meet now. Time flies so fast. January came to an end in the blink of an eye, and Aika had no real sense of it. Way 11's face didn't look very good either. The two sat side by side on the bed, watching a sparrow land on the windowsill, peck a few times on the melted stone bricks, and then flap its wings and leave. Brother Aika. Sure enough, she had changed her name back to herself. This also means that this period of alone time has indeed come to an end. She held the black and white bear she had taken out of the toy machine to her chest, and placed it with the matching reverse-colored black and white bear on Aika's bedside. Way 11 buried her chin in the soft down, not knowing what was going on in her little head. Aika felt a hint of melancholy in her heart. During this month, Way 11 and I saw beautiful scenery of different styles and ate dishes that were not available in the BZ Empire. At night, the two of them, whose excitement had not subsided, would lie on their own beds and chat in low voices about insignificant gossip. It wasn't until Way 11 didn't respond that Aika closed her eyes. This period of time has extraordinary significance. However, Liuyan, who has been with Wixi day and night, does not understand the real her, let alone herself, who is very different in age and gender. Aika wonders from time to time, is Way 11 hiding a lot of things? She spent most of the time habitually echoing, but rarely spoke out her true thoughts. During this month, Aika learned a lot of things that Way 11 had hidden in her heart, and she took the initiative to say these things herself. This alone did not mean that Way 11 had changed. It was just because she was the only one present and she had repeatedly stressed that Way 11 should not be so hesitant, so she opened her heart a little. In the final analysis, probably Way 11 still has not stepped out of her own circle. Pack your things. He stood up happily, put his hand on Way 11's little head and rubbed it vigorously, messing up her well-tended long hair. Then, why don't you visit the 2 cities you pass along the way? Way 11 was startled by Aika's statement, but, there are only 2 days left. Isn't 2 days enough? Aika smiled, just go to the place you want to go most. He placed the opened PDA on Way 11's lap, and the updated map unfolded on the screen. Some locations are marked with red circles. Actually, even if they haven't arrived today, I have already thought of this plan. Aika took the black and white bear from Way 11's arms and placed it next to the reversed black and white bear. The 2 dolls' shoulders are close together, supporting each other. You don't want to leave any regrets, right? Way 11 blankly picked up Aika's PDA and looked at the large and small red circles on the screen. My vision suddenly became blurry. Unsatisfied tears burst out, and Way 11 wiped the corners of her eyes with the back of her hand. Aika deliberately turned a blind eye to her tears and turned around to move out their suitcases. After traveling from city to city, Aika's method of packing personal belongings has become very familiar. But of course Way 11 still arranges her own clothing. Hey. Way 11 behind her showed a hidden chuckle, but Aika could still hear it clearly. As long as Way 11 can get closer to the edge of the circle, it will already be a big improvement. And his mission is to hold her hand and protect her every small step she takes. Chiuke threw the small travel bag on the bed, then opened his arms and jumped on it. The travel bag that was pressed beneath her sank into the sheets along with her small body. You finish cleaning up first and then rest. This is a long journey. We should rest first and then pack our luggage. If you start to rest, you won't be able to move again later. I also feel a little sore in my body, and I don't want to waste any more energy looking at you. Tilyuya hugged Chiuke's waist and pulled her limp body out of the sheets. Chiuke's ears, which were always erect in spirit, were now drooping feebly, and his tail was brushing against the sheets. So cold. First take out all the clothes and fold them again. Tiruya ignored Zuko's teasing, placed their travel bags on the ground, and opened the zippers. Lilu and Xiao live in the same room with their accompanying mentors of the same sex, and they probably won't see each other again tonight. Quickly clean up and go to bed, this is what Tilyuya hopes most at this time. Did Aika and Wixie say something? No. Chiuke shook his head, I asked them to come back in 2 days. After all, it's different from the plan. They both need some time to adjust their mentality. You've thought about it a lot, it's really not like you. Tiruya looked at Chiuke who was sitting on the edge of the bed with his legs dangling in surprise. She gave a sheepish, silly-looking smile. I'm the student council president, so this kind of thing is normal. Not to mention the 2 of them. Chiuke, tell the truth. Are you the one who suggested that they act 1 month in advance? Tiruya sighed. Among the 4 people in the student union, she is the one closest to the real Chiuke. Therefore, Chiuke would always have no way to avoid Tilyuya's words. Is that true? I seem to have said it, but I don't think so. I don't remember it very well, haha. She was vague in her usual manner, it's been a month, I must not remember clearly. As he spoke, Chiuke felt more confident. After being hit hard on the head by Tilyuya, her originally energetic ears became soft again. The orcs reveal their emotions too easily, that's why you can be seen through so easily. Tilyuya's eyes were a little complicated. As for the 4 of them, Just let nature take its course. Don't do any more unnecessary things. Tylua, haven't you noticed yet? Seeing that Chiuke showed a rare serious expression, Tyruya also became serious. It is true that Chiuke always behaves irrationally and does not do his job well. But Tyruya didn't look down on her. She scolded Chiuke every day, but she was often shocked by her out-of-the-box thinking and behavior. Her sister is the captain of the Imperial City Defense Bureau. In order to be worthy of her sister's status, Tyruya, who often goes to and from the headquarters building, is always careful about her image. I don't know when it started, but it became the stubborn character it is now. In fact, Tyruya was a little envious of Chiuke. On the surface, he is carefree, but he is very famous in Shigetsuki Academy, and he is like a school idol. Tyruya and Zuko are two people with completely different personalities on the surface, and the same is true internally, but the positive and negative sides are reversed. Even with this feeling, Tyruya still couldn't be like Zuko. What do you mean, President? Because if I do this, Chiuke paused deliberately, it will become more interesting. I'm really stupid for thinking that I would listen to you seriously. Tyruya shook her fist away from Chiuke's head and squatted down in front of the travel bag again. Don't waste time, I've already very sleepy. As he spoke, he covered his mouth with his hands and yawned widely. Hey, where are you going to play tomorrow? Don't wake me up early in the morning, or I'll be angry. I know. Although Tylua is half vampire, she suffers from low blood pressure and gets very angry when she wakes up. The room was still filled with cold air when I first came in, but now it has gradually become warmer due to the working of the heater. Chiuke took off his slightly oversized coat and cute fox-eared hat. I'm going to visit Xiao and the others. Come back here. Tyruya held her collar up without any explanation and grabbed Chiuke back. Save your energy until tomorrow. Today, please pack your luggage obediently, take a bath, and then go sleep. We only need to stay here for 2 days, there is no need to take out everything. Summarizing Chiuke's words and thinking about it, you can understand that she has no desire to do such troublesome manual work. No, life is not something that can be dealt with casually. Tyruya placed some small bottles for girls on the bedside table. You even brought these. I had already put it in my bag when I noticed it. Anyway, there aren't many things, so I brought them here together. Tyruya raised her head and looked directly at Chiuke, who had empty hands. By the way, while chatting with you, I have almost finished cleaning up. Feel sorry. Being stared at by Tyruya with sharp eyes, Chiuke followed her example and took out all the contents of the travel bag and placed them on his bed. I wonder how far Way 11 has achieved this month. I had confiscated magazines from boys in other classes and flipped through them. I thought it would be useful to Way 11, so I quietly used my rights to lend her the book. If Way 11 is serious, she will definitely find an opportunity to put it into practice. I'm really looking forward to our meeting in 2 days' time. While Chiuke was imagining an evil scene in his head, under Tyruya's strict supervision, he began to pack up a bunch of things that were of little practical use that he had brought. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 95. Ling and Luoluo will be very busy today. The general cleaning that was supposed to be carried out at the end of the year was completely forgotten due to various reasons. Luoluo and Ling had already started planning this matter after returning from the imperial capital. But as of today, there has been no progress. It seems a bit reluctant for only 2 girls to clean such a big house. If you have time to complain, it's better to take action immediately. This is Ling's consistent opinion. Ika and Way 11 are not at home. They will start the new semester soon after they return from the Tiburai Kingdom, so they cannot be counted on at all. Sister Ling, we must finish everything before dark. This is my first time doing something like this. I don't know if I can do it. Just don't expect too much. Unlike Lugo, who needs to take care of her brother all the time, Miss Ling seems to have never done any housework by herself. When assigning work yesterday, Lugo tried to lighten her burden as much as possible. Among the 3 rooms, Ling was only responsible for the room she and Wei 11 shared, while Lugo was responsible for her and Ika's room. As for public rooms such as halls and bathrooms, 2 people clean them together. Don't take out all the things. For places like wardrobes and desks, just wipe off the dust with a wet rag first, and then wipe away the water stains with a dry rag. And before starting, Lugo patiently taught his experience to the ignorant eldest lady. If he didn't do this, Ling's workload might increase several times. Oh, is that so? Ling listened to Lugo's words carefully. It feels quite simple, I should be fine. Her tone was still uncertain. Sister Ling, it's no problem. Lugo smiled and nodded, I'll take that one in. It should be dry by now. What Lugo got back was an apron to prevent dust from staining his clothes, and a white headscarf tied to his hair. This was bought specially for this general cleaning. The 2 of them also bought Ika and Wei 11's shares, by the way. Ika would probably say, it's just for hygiene, there is no need for such things. Lugo had already guessed it in the store. But as long as he really bought it home, Ika would wear it no matter how unwilling he was. I bought the smallest size for Wei 11, but when I washed it, I found it was still a bit too big for her. If you have time, let's change the size a little. I don't know if the sewing skills I learned from my mother when I was a child have deteriorated. After putting this on, I feel more energetic. Ling put on an apron and a white headscarf, and raised her arms with satisfaction. It's better to curl your hair, otherwise it will get dirty easily even if you wear a headscarf. Lugo pointed out Ling's carelessness without mercy. But even if you're not dirty, you still need to take a shower after cleaning yourself, right? It's a matter of mood. By the time they were fully prepared, more than half of the morning had passed. My room is simply cleaned every day, so it doesn't take too long to clean up. There is some dust accumulated on the windowsill. Because the windows are often opened for ventilation, this is the only place that is difficult to take care of. Lugo wiped away the dust with a wet rag, and the clear water in the bucket was stained with various colors. Huh. Lolo, who was wiping with a dry rag for the second time, noticed a branch that was particularly close to the window. There is a large, thick tree planted in front of the caretaker's cabin. In the spring and summer, its branches are thick and leafy, and it subtly does not block the sunlight. Lugo put one hand on the windowsill, stretched out the other hand, and pulled the branch closer. When I first moved into this room, this branch was not so long. Although it is still a little far away from early spring, small pink bulges can already be seen on the branches. It's been half a year. Lugo touched the smooth bud with his fingers. In more than a month, it will reveal its hidden beauty. When I came to Shimizuki Academy, I just missed the flowering season. At that time, the big tree only had dense green leaves. It was only later that Lugo learned that this tree could bloom pink flowers in spring. The branches that continue to grow towards the window symbolize the continuous passage of time. Lugo thought that his sentimental personality was not suitable for him. If it were Wei 11, there would be no sense of disobedience. However, I still express such unexplained emotions from time to time. Every time he realizes that he is in a foreign country, Lugo can't help but look for the person who should be by his side, and he rarely fails to live up to his expectations. This is already very good. If you insist on more, you will not get happiness. The higher the expectations, the more painful the disappointment will be. Lugo didn't know how many times he reminded himself of this. But I don't want to give up, even though the possibility is slim, but I haven't done anything, I haven't fought for anything, so in the end I won't even have an excuse to comfort myself, I will only be left with deep regrets. Therefore, Luoluo often has such contradictions in his heart, and what he thinks in his heart is not consistent with his body's actions. Don't change, just stay like this. If it changes, it is possible. It was as if different personalities were constantly competing for the remaining space in Luoluo's heart. Luoluo can express his love calmly. This word does not have only one meaning, and people who hear it will have different understandings. Using this word as a shield, Luoluo can have a clear conscience. As long as you don't think carefully about what the word in your mouth actually means. Luoluo sighed and loosened his fingers. The bent branch bounced back, startling the bird that was staying on a nearby branch. After wiping away the remaining water stains on the windowsill, Lolo gently closed the window. Well, it's almost done. She looked around the room. It should have been cleaned faster. Because I just remembered something, when I came back to my senses, it seemed that a long time had passed. Luoluo walked out of the room carrying a bucket filled with dirty water. The sound of things being lifted and put down could still be heard in Sister Ling's room next door. Luoluo walked quietly to the door and looked into the room. When cleaning, you don't have to keep the door closed all the time. Ling and Wei 11 lived in the same room, and their things were kept together, which was relatively large. It seemed that it would take some time, so Luoluo left the door in small steps. I couldn't relax myself, as my brother's room was still uncleaned. Under his years of education, my brother has not developed the bad habits that most boys have. He used the spare key to open his brother's door. The room was still the same as when he left. In fact, I only lost a few pieces of clothing and basically didn't take anything else with me, but standing at the door of the room, Luoluo still felt the deep feeling of loneliness and emptiness. On ordinary days, his room looked the same, but this feeling never occurred. Carrying the bucket after changing the water, Luoluo walked into the room and locked the door. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 96. 2 days later, Ika and Wei 11, dragging their suitcases, met the little boy from the student union in the lobby of a luxury hotel. The hotel, booked in the name of Shimazuki Academy, was located in a prosperous area of the royal capital. Ika, who had no sense of direction, took Wei 11 in a large circle on the street before finding it. Lilu-san, good morning. Long time no see, Lilu-san. Waiting for the two of them on the sofa in the hall was Lilu, the accountant of the student union. I originally thought there would be many people waiting here, but when I saw only one person, Ika breathed a sigh of relief. Before coming here, he was very nervous. Probably out of consideration for the mood of the two of them, Lilu was left alone here. Classmate Ika, classmate Wuxi, Lilu left the soft sofa, came to the two of them, and bowed obediently. I haven't seen you for a month. I wonder if you are 2 or 3 now? 3 people, Wei 11 tilted her head, looking puzzled. There are only brother Ika and me here. Stop making such jokes. Although Rilu was a member of the student council, she was also a classmate of Ika, so he flicked her forehead without hesitation. Yes. Lila covered her forehead. She puffed up her cheeks slightly when she didn't get the answer she was expecting. Everyone is waiting for you in a big room. Let me lead the way. Are the rest of the student council and tutors there? Yes. This afternoon, people from Tiburai Royal Academy will come to pick us up. The schedule is very tight. The two of them followed Lilu and walked deeper into the hotel. By the way, Ika remembered the question she wanted to ask 2 days ago: why did the academy leave 2 days earlier than planned? I was really shocked when I received Chiuke's notice. Wei 11 thought of that panicked morning, and her face turned red. Ika probably thought of the same thing, and he deliberately did not look in Wei 11's direction. Because Principal Phyllis said that we should come here first to familiarize ourselves with the environment of the royal capital. Lila did not look back. By the way, I have a surprise for you. It was indeed Principal Phyllis's idea. Ika did think of this possibility, but she didn't expect it to be such a boring reason. Here we are, right here. Basically, there are so many things that need everyone's attention, and I've finished what I have to say. Principal Phyllis's words ended the brief meeting. The instructors left the room one after another, and Ika could finally breathe a sigh of relief. It was his first time to participate in such a formal meeting. When Principal Phyllis and his tutor were speaking, he always straightened his back to avoid behavior that was inconsistent with the atmosphere. During the meeting, Way 11, who sat beside her neatly, would look at him and smile from time to time. Brother Ika, it doesn't matter if you don't have to be so serious. When you met Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming, your attitude was more relaxed than this time. After the meeting, Way 11 finally told Ika the reason for her smile just now. It was because I didn't recognize it at that time. Ika retorted. But in his heart, he did feel that being with Lan Ming was much easier than sitting here. Hey, I just heard an incredible name. Chiu K suddenly emerged from Ika's side. When did you meet Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming? She is the one who came to Tiberai Kingdom for a state visit. Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming. Chiu K was not a citizen of the BZ Empire, so he probably didn't know Lan Ming very well. But looking at her eyes sparkling with excitement and her big tail wagging back and forth, Ika could tell that she was full of interest in Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming. It's not something worth worrying about. I don't know how far the airship accident has been concealed. At least for now, Shiyu Academy is not aware of this matter, and it was not brought up at the meeting just now. If you want to answer Chiu K's question directly, you must find a reasonable excuse. But it is not easy to get to know the princess of a country, and Ika's mind is not flexible enough yet. Lan Ming and I just... Oh. I actually called Her Highness the Princess by her first name. Brother Ika. The two men showed completely different reactions, none of which was favorable to Ika. Chiu K's desire for gossip became even more intense. Way 11 just called her in a low voice. She didn't know that Ika and Princess Lan Ming had already begun to call each other by their names. Hey, classmate Ika, classmate Wuxi, long time no see. Waving to them and walking over quickly, it was Vice President Tairua. Ika silently thanked her for the rescue. Tairua. Listen to me. We're about to leave soon. If you have anything to say, we'll talk to you in the car. Go back and change your uniform first. Tilyuya ignored the excited Chiu K and said, Wuxi-san, you also need to change your uniform. Come with us room. While she was holding Chiu K, who was waving her hands and feet, she looked at Way 11 with gentle eyes. Should I go there too? Ika pointed at herself with a confused expression. Of course it's impossible. What she got was a cold reply from Tairua. Ika-san, just come to my room. Xiao patted Ika on the shoulder from behind. Just in time, just go there with Xiao. Brother Ika, I'll leave first. Well, see you later. In order to reassure Way 11, Ika touched her head. Way 11 smiled shyly, then turned around and followed Tilyuya, who was dragging Chiu K. A lot seems to have happened this month. Senior Xiao. No, it's nothing, don't worry about it. Xiao coughed and vaguely brought up the topic. The two eventually left the large room that served as a makeshift conference room. Taking off her coat and changing into the uniform of Shimizuki Academy, Ika felt a strange sense of belonging. Put on the scarf woven by Luoluo, stand in front of the mirror, and look at the other self reflected in the mirror. For a moment, he felt like he was back a month ago, before he left Shimatsuki Academy. By the way, let's tell Luoluo and Ling that we have successfully reunited and we will set off soon. Ika took out her PDA from her coat pocket and sent a message to both of them. It didn't take long for his PDA to vibrate. Brother, the journey is not over until you return home. We can meet in 1 month, and I will work hard before then. By the way, Sister Ling and I have already finished the general cleaning, so it's up to you and Xiao 11 to do the general cleaning at the end of this year. End of year cleaning, completely forgot about it. Ika pressed her forehead. After you go back, you must find an opportunity to thank them, whether it is spiritually or materially. Then, I sincerely ask them to come together to help with the cleaning at the end of this year. Just by myself and Wei 11, there is absolutely no hope. Luoluo and I have had a good month. There is nothing for you to worry about. In the next month, it should be similar every day. Anyway, there's nothing special to say. If you're with Tailua Senpai, you probably won't die outside so easily. Take good care of Wei 11, that's all. Ling's reply seemed a little cold, but it was quite her style. Have she and Tailua Senpai reconciled? That afternoon, Ling didn't mention what topics the two had talked about when they came back. However, it seems that there should be no problem. Ika, are you all ready? Xiao also changed into his uniform, and his suitcase was placed at the entrance. Well, it's ready. Ika adjusted the position of her uniform tie. Ah, brother Ika. At the door of Xiao's room, Wei 11 was standing against the wall. She had also changed her clothes. The long-lost uniform was worn on her petite body, and she wore the white coat that Ika bought for her, which looked very delicate. Have you been waiting for a long time? No, no, Wei 11 shook her head vigorously. Sister Ling and Luoluo both sent messages just now. Well, I received it too. They seem to be going well, so let's just concentrate on getting things done here. Tairuya and Akatsuki had given up this time to the two of them and went directly to the lobby. Let's go too, everyone is waiting. Ika stretched out her hand to Wei 11. Then, Wei 11 held his finger with her little hand without hesitation. Warmth can be felt even without contact. However, once touched, the extravagant thought of taking it as your own will quickly occupy the brain, leaving no room for thinking. The hands that hold each other will not let go easily. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 97. The royal capital of the Tiburai Kingdom does not have obvious regional divisions like the imperial capital of the Bis Empire. To be precise, the current royal capital only brings together the scientific, technological, and economic levels that can symbolize the strength of the Tiburai Kingdom. Covered in a gorgeous appearance, it actually does not have the rigorous planning necessary for a city. This is the current situation of the royal capital and the current situation of the entire Tiburai Kingdom. Wangli Academy is currently the only comprehensive educational institution in the Kingdom of Tiburai. Its curriculum is somewhat similar to that of the Imperial Knight Academy. There is a lot of emphasis on theoretical education here, but less on practice. This was not a management error of Wangli Academy, but was forced by the domestic situation of the Tiburai Kingdom. As one of the human-dominated countries, the Tiburai Kingdom was once active as an ally with the Bis Empire in the cross-border war. During the cross-border war, although magic and other supernatural powers were well known, they were not taken seriously. Human beings still used cold weapons and hot weapons to face foreign races. The strong physical abilities of the orcs, the flexible light magic of the gods, the ever-changing hallucinations of the elves, and the weird blood control skills of the vampires, without exception, have caused human beings to stumble one after another. After constant defeats, humans began to think about whether there was a way to win unexpectedly and maximize their own advantages. As a result, magic technology came into their sight. Before that, magic machines had been used as tools to make life more convenient, but had not been used in the military. But this is only the idea of most humans, and a small number of people have long realized the infinite possibilities brought by magic and magic technology. They used the knowledge they continuously acquired to lead mankind in a desperate counterattack. This was history before the spread of magic tools and magic machines. Hey, is there such a thing? In the vehicle that came to greet them, Ika, Wei 11, and 4 people from the student union sat together. Xiao followed Chiukei's instructions and gave Ika and Wei 11 a brief introduction to Tiburai Royal Academy, which they were going to visit for a month. The above historical summary seemed to have been summarized in Tutor Letica's tutoring. Mentioned it, but Ika couldn't remember it. Brother Ika, although there is no need to test the chronicle, you still need to remember it well. It's a lot to carry. But Xiao will remember it. Chiukei proudly raised his hand and patted Xiao on the back. Thank you, President, for your compliment. This is just superficial knowledge. Xiao did not show any obvious expression of joy, but some waves could be heard in his serious tone, if it were the president. Perhaps his usually calm heart was rippled, and he, who was synonymous with caution, spoke of a topic that should not have been mentioned. Fortunately, Xiao's head turned quickly, and he did not show any unnatural hesitation, and naturally continued what he had already said. After another year of accumulation, the insights I will come up with will definitely far exceed my humble opinion. I always feel that Xiao, who works so hard, looks very similar to someone. Ah, it's her. Ika hammered her palm. Without thinking at all, the figure of a certain girl popped into his mind. Brother Ika. Wei 11 tilted her little head. Not only her, but the other 4 people also looked at Ika with puzzled eyes. It's impossible to say something suddenly without meaning, even if you don't want to attract attention. Ahaha, it's nothing, I just suddenly remembered a friend I haven't seen for a long time. Wei 11 pondered for a moment and seemed to understand Ika's words. Of course, Wei 11, who gets a long day and night with Ika, knows everything about Ika's interpersonal network. If you haven't seen each other for a long time and are called friends, there are only a few candidates. What, don't scare us suddenly. I thought Ika-san remembered something important. Tairua and Ralu started talking about it, and everyone quickly ignored the matter. Ika breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, he suddenly discovered that Xiao and Liuyan were subtly similar. Both of them were very good at using such ambiguous terms to make the people they liked happy. But Xiao's feelings for Chiukei probably aren't like, but admiration. Even for Ika, this was the only thing he thought he would not be wrong about. Could it be that living alone among girls for a long time has developed a strange sixth sense? Ika really doesn't know whether he should be happy about getting this inexplicable ability. Back to the topic. This time the Tiburai Kingdom invited Frost Moon Academy for exchange and learning. Just to break this sluggish situation, Tairuya brought everyone's attention back to the topic they were talking about before. There is one thing you may still want to know. Have no idea. She deliberately lowered her voice. Apart from a few of them, only Tiburai Wangli Academy sent him as the driver's instructor. However, Tairuya still chose to do this. There must be some meaning. Have you heard about the civil strife in the Tiburai Kingdom? Civil strife? Is it a conflict within the country? The unexpected words made Ika frown. If this was civil strife, he couldn't help but recall the life and death high-altitude accident that everyone barely crossed a month ago. Wei 11's expression was also a little painful. Since that accident, both of them have experienced firsthand the disaster caused by this conflict. Regardless of the parties involved, many innocent people will also be involved. The result may only make the winning side laugh out loud. No, you can't say that. Ika shook his head. If it were Lan Ming, he would not want to exchange this result for his succession. It seems that you already understand what this means. Tairuya knew something from the expressions of the two people. She did not go into details, but continued, this country is different from the Bizi Empire. There is a part of the country that people are a little extreme in their thinking, believing that relying on the power of magic deviates from the essence of human beings, and vigorously promote the development of science. If it is just this, it will not be enough to have the impact it has now. However, they will even attack the forces that support the development of magic potential. To carry out armed intervention, that's why the domestic situation is so tense. It's really stupid. Magic and science are supposed to be two technologies that complement each other, but the appearance of such a group of people has distorted humankind's understanding of them. Lilu's tone was filled with undeniable anger. She is an elf, and the mistakes made by humans have nothing to do with her, but she is still angry. Military intervention refers to civil war. Won't the country stop it? Wei 11's brows furrowed slightly, and her disgust was revealed undisguised. This was a very rare expression for her. The ruling party has never expressed its attitude, so it has not become their spearhead. If there is a big commotion in the city, the knights may suppress it. But if they are just attacking each other secretly, then the ruling party will have more trouble than less, and treat it as nothing. It'll be a lot easier to see. This style of conduct is really disrespectful. Ika scoffed at this. He only knew that the rebuilding speed of the Tiburai kingdom was slow, but he did not know that there was such an inside story. From this point of view, this is entirely the result of the ruling party's own fault and cannot be sympathized with by anyone. Self-destruction is the best outcome for them. By the way, the third princess of the Bizi Empire came here this time, it seems, just to discuss this issue. Xiao mentioned Lan Ming at this time. There was news about her attending a state visit on TV, but you didn't watch it? Eh? Is this happening? Ika was very shocked by the news. She looked at Wei 11, who just shook her head regretfully. As expected of Her Royal Highness, she is really beautiful. Lilu seemed to be fascinated by the princess on the screen. What would she look like if she knew that a month ago, the flower of the high mountain was within reach of Ika and Wei 11? The tutors and students of Tiburai Wangli Academy are basically Chinese. They are tired of this situation, so they want to express their attitude to the Chinese through exchanges and studies with us. If this time can be successful, maybe it will be of some help to this country. Chiu Ke made a very pertinent opinion, which shows that she also attaches great importance to this event. As the student council president of Shiyu Academy, she is everyone's representative, and the responsibilities that Chiu Ke shoulders are not ordinary. Do you feel forced? Ika was just about to ask Chiu Ke, but when he saw the looks in the eyes of other students in the student union, he swallowed his words. Tairuya, Lilu, and Akatsuki all looked at her because of what Chiu Ke had just said. The three people closest to her had no trace of worry or suspicion in their eyes, but an invisible trust. Seeing this, Ika immediately understood. Because of this look, you can occasionally see it on the three girls at home. If you say that, we should be regarded as a thorn in the side of the technology party, right? Ika asked another question. Frost Moon Academy takes magic and other supernatural powers as its main research object, which is completely in conflict with their philosophy. After all, we are here on behalf of the entire Shiyu Academy. There should be no one stupid enough to become an enemy of our academy. Chiu Ke spread his hands indifferently, and even if we are targeted by them, we may not necessarily we will lose to them. Chiu Ke swung his big furry tail behind his back, and his calm attitude stabilized the somewhat impetuous atmosphere. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 98. The convoy safely entered the gate of Tiburai Wangli Academy, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Even the drivers frankly admitted that in order to cope with the sudden attack, they tensed up their nerves to pay attention to their surroundings while driving. The architectural style of Foreign Academy is very different from that of Frost Moon Academy. Everyone in the student union looked at the surrounding buildings with some curiosity, but Ika and Wei 11 have been completely accustomed to the style of the Tiburai kingdom in this month, whether it is architecture or cuisine. The two of them didn't look shocked at all, but they still looked excitedly at the new environment they would live in for the next month. Principal Phyllis and the accompanying tutors will meet with the other party's leadership, and other responsible people will take the students to the rooms that have been arranged. Here, Way 11 had to separate from Ika. Girls must live in the girls' dormitory, and it is impossible for boys and girls to live in the same room. Chiuke is Way 11's roommate. This was probably decided by everyone together. Ika breathed a sigh of relief. Be obedient and obedient. Are you going to let her listen to the president? Tilyuya was really surprised. Then it's better to let her live with you. Is it really possible? Hearing Tilyuya say this, Way 11's originally negative mood suddenly improved. Sorry, I was just making an analogy. Tilyuya's sincere apology extinguished Way 11's fire of hope. Why can't you listen to me? I'm 2 years older than Way 11. The age difference is not a problem, the important thing is here. Tilyuya pointed to her head, and then ignored Chiuke's resentful eyes. She squatted down in front of Way 11, some things you have to get used to in the future. Let's take this opportunity to learn. She touched Way 11's head and showed a steady smile befitting a big sister. Way 11 nodded slightly. This time, she was mentally prepared to separate from Ika. But after all, it is just preparation. What will happen next depends on how hard she can work. Be a good boy. Tilyuya stood up and said, Lilu, let's go. Good. Ika walked up to Way 11. If you have anything, please contact me directly. A very simple sentence, but it was enough to make Way 11 feel that Ika was beside her. Chiuke, I'll ask you to take care of Way 11. Leave it to me, I'm also a sister. Chiuke's ears suddenly perked up after receiving a rare favor from others. She gave Ika a thumbs up. Ika nodded and took one last look at Way 11. Then he turned around and dragged his suitcase, disappearing in front of the girls' dormitory with Xiao's figure. Chiuke, let's go to our room. What surprised Chiuke was that Way 11 did not feel depressed for a long time. She was the first person to speak up and break the silence. That. I will trouble you for the rest of the time. Way 11, as docile as she was, bowed to Chiu-seen who wanted to say something. Disrupted by her, Chiuke lowered his head in panic. I am the one. Even though I boasted so much just now, I still don't know what to do. Well, don't really treat me like a child. Way 11 puffed up her cheeks, but she was not really unhappy. Ahaha, that's true. You're much more mature than me. Chiuke giggled and picked up his travel bag. Do you have the key to the door? Huh? Chiuke's sudden question was a bit puzzling. No, didn't the instructor who just brought us here have any? I don't remember, but it seems that both Ika and Tilyuya got it. After being separated from everyone for less than a minute, problems immediately arose. How to do it? Chiuke was spinning around in circles anxiously. In fact, all she had to do at this time was contact the instructor at Chiyu Academy, but she didn't think of this in time. Moreover, Way 11, who seemed very calm on the surface, also ignored this method. Let's go back along the original path first and see if we can find the mentor who brought us here. That's all we can do. Chiuke, who was very confident just now, lowered his raised ears again. I'm sorry, This is not your responsibility alone. If you haven't noticed this, I will reflect on it with you, but now, you have to find the key first. There was no hesitation in her tone, and Chiuke opened his eyes in surprise. In the afterglow of the setting sun, Way 11's long white hair swayed gently with the cold wind. Even if Chiuke met her eyes, she did not move away. Way 11, you seem to have changed a bit. Eh? Yes, yes. When Chiuke said this, the calm attitude she had been trying to maintain immediately collapsed. The eyes that looked around in panic told Chiuke that she was still the same Way 11. Please don't laugh at this time. Well, Way 11 is still like this and feels a little more acceptable. Chiuke took a deep breath and finally suppressed his laughter. Wouldn't it suit me to be more mature? If you ask Ika this question, how do you think he will answer you? I won't ask him this kind of question. After all, Way 11 couldn't help but think about Chiuke's words. To be honest, if you completely subvert the image, I think it might be difficult for everyone to adapt. Once upon a time, he said this. So, if you are dissatisfied with yourself, just change yourself. Then, he said this again. She shamelessly extended the invitation, but the scene of that afternoon was still vivid in her mind, and Way 11 never forgot every word Ika said at that time. At that time, in order to make the invitation less abrupt, she inadvertently revealed her true feelings. Looking back now, apart from the shyness that made her cheeks heat up, Way 11 didn't feel there was anything to regret. Moreover, there was a voice hidden deep in her heart. It's really great that he was the one who heard these words. Is your luggage heavy? Seeing that Way 11's confused expression disappeared and was replaced by a hint of cherry color, Chiuke, who had been waiting quietly beside her, asked. Ah, no, I can afford it. To be honest, you are a little bit stronger, I feel. Chiuke's face was also a little red, not sure if it was dyed with the color of the sunset. It's pretty good, so, no matter what has changed, Way 11 will always be Way 11, this is the only thing that will not change. Haha, I said some nonsense, forget it. Chiuke scratched his cheek and turned around with his travel bag. Before Way 11 could react to her words, the two of them stood like this for a while in the fading sunset. Their shadows were projected on the floor paved with white tiles, slowly lengthening. Chiuke, Way 11's voice made Chiuke's back tremble, thank you. A calm thank you was enough to convey Way 11's mood at the moment. Finally, the two people walking back successfully met the instructors who had finished the meeting. Chiuke and Way 11 both lowered their heads and apologized for their carelessness. At that time, instructors from both Shimatsuki Academy and Tiburai Wangli Academy were present, and they were very satisfied with their sincere attitude. Just thinking that the key incident was finally over, Chiuke and Way 11 returned to the room and discovered the dense text messages on the PDA. The first person to realize that neither of them had returned to the room at this time was Lilu, and one can imagine what happened next. Chiuke and Way 11 sent safety messages to Ika and Xiao in their rooms, who had been worried. If boys were allowed to enter the girls' dormitory, the two of them would have definitely rushed in long ago. Then he sat down and began to listen to Vice President Tairuya's teachings. Tairuya's lecture lasted for half an hour. After she left, the two stood up carefully. His legs were numb from sitting, Chiuke fell directly on his back on his bed, and Way 11 slowly walked to the bed and sat down. Tairua really doesn't feel tired. Chiuke, who was always full of energy, turned into a frostbeaten eggplant under Tilua's mental attack. Because she is really worried about us. Way 11 gently rubbed her exposed calf, we just got here and already everyone is worrying about us. Next, I will show my dignity as the student council president. Chiuke, who was lying on his back on the bed, raised his fist towards the ceiling. Please, President. Oh, I won't mess it up this time. By the way, why did you suddenly use that title? Because sometimes I want to call you President. Way 11 laughed evilly. Well, it doesn't feel bad, haha. Night falls quietly. When the sky shines next, the exchange study between Frost Moon Academy and Tiburai King Academy will officially begin. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 99. The meeting place of Tiburai Royal Academy is in the spacious gymnasium. If we follow the usual practice, the scale of the exchange study between the two schools should be much larger than this time, and usually most students will participate. But this time, Tiburai Wangli Academy only sent 5 student council members composed of second and third year students, and 2 first-year students. It is the winter vacation, so the total number of students in Tiburai Wangli Academy does not exceed 20. In comparison, the number of adults gathered here seems to be too many, and there are even reporters outside. I said, "Are we so noteworthy?" Ika's eyes would glance in other directions from time to time, searching the crowd with his peripheral vision. Of course, this is a major event in the country. Many people are watching this. Let's wait until it's over. Tilyuya, who was standing on Ika's left side, reminded him in a low voice, while Wei 11, who was on his right side, seemed a little confused. A large part of the eyes looking here fell on her, and her conspicuous appearance was naturally one of the reasons. No one in this country should know or care about her former identity. The speeches of both principals were extremely brief, so they probably had a good conversation. In a helpless foreign country, the students representing Shigetsuki Academy couldn't help but smile when they heard the speech style they had long known by heart. Next, I would like to invite the student council president of Shimizuki Academy to give a speech. Wei 11's voice leaked out. She lived in the same room as Chiuke and had never heard that the student council president would go on stage to deliver a speech. Last night, Chiuke fell asleep on the warm bed without any preparation. Chiuke walked onto the stage with brisk steps, and the ears and big tail that symbolized the identity of the orcs were not hidden. Everyone's eyes moved to her. Standing in front of the microphone, Chiuke's expression showed no trace of nervousness at all. Her smile was still the same as before, with a silly cuteness. "Hello everyone, I am Chiuke, a first-year student at Shiyu Academy. I am also the student council president of Shiyu Academy." No one exclaimed because of her school year, everyone waited quietly for her next words. "We are very honored to receive the invitation from Tiburai Wangli Academy to participate in this exchange and study. As 2 academies with different research directions, I believe that we will be able to learn from each other's strengths and gain something from each other." Under the public gaze, there was no trace of nervousness in Chiuke's tone, nor was it his usual leisurely tone. She drew the attention of everyone present to herself. "As individuals, we also very much hope to establish a deep connection with you. Everyone gives themselves a higher or lower position. But we are constantly exposed to new things and see new scenery, without exception. You will feel that you are lacking something. And it is under this wave of impact that we can grow." Chiuke's speech was perfect. When she said the last word, the audience burst into applause. This is what she meant. Wei 11 looked at Chiuke, who walked off the stage with pleased eyes. After all, she is our student council president. Tilyuya didn't know what Chiuke and Wei 11 said last night, but she understood what Wei 11 meant. When it's important, she will never let everyone down. Her expectations, so everyone will trust her. There was emotion in Tiryuya's tone that had never appeared before. Ika couldn't describe that feeling well in words. He could only feel Tiryuya's passion for Chiuke from her eyes. Ika turned his head, and Chiuke and Wei 11, who returned to the team, looked at each other and smiled. The atmosphere between the two seems to be different from before, which is probably a good start. Ika has always believed that the relationship between girls is not as straightforward as that between boys. Just being alone for a period of time may produce unexpected changes, and the relationship between the two of them may also. Ika's attention was drawn back to the stage by the voice of Chiuke's speech. The student council president of Tiburai Wangli Academy, Yun, the girl who has the same identity as Chiuke, expressed a warm welcome to the tutors and students of Shiyu Academy on behalf of Wangli Academy. After the welcome ceremony, the students participating in the exchange study held a meeting in the large conference room in Wangli Academy as planned. The main purpose was to let everyone get familiar with each other, that is, to introduce themselves. Students from the two academies sat on both sides of the long conference table. There was no instructor present, and there were only a group of people of similar age around me, so there wasn't much tension. I think you already know me through the speech I just gave, but let me introduce myself again. The girl who just took the stage to give a speech took the lead and stood up gracefully. It is also part of the etiquette for the inviter to introduce herself first. I Kagaki, I am temporarily serving as the student council president of Tiburai Royal Academy, and my favorite thing is dessert. The long hair is tied into 2 braids, and the small glasses give people a very smart look. This was Aika's first impression of her. Ah! I also like desserts. Chiuke, who had been extremely serious until just now, suddenly raised his hands and stood up after listening to Yuenyi's self-introduction, and he looked very excited. Tilyuya, who was sitting next to her, grabbed her big wagging tail. Chiuke's waving hands paused in the air, and then sat down silently. I'm sorry, our president occasionally behaves rudely like this, but he is still a good boy at heart. Please forgive me. Tiruya apologized on behalf of her child just like Zuko's mother. Everyone at Tiburai Royal Academy showed a wry smile of bewilderment, while everyone at Shigetsu Academy had an expression they were accustomed to. Looks like we can get along just fine. Although he was shocked by Chiuke's sudden move, he was worthy of being the student council president representing the entire Wangli Academy. Yuenyi immediately adjusted his mentality and faced Chiuke with his hands on his knees and his head shaking in a normal manner. Kei said that with a smile. Ahaha. Chiuke, who still had tears in his eyes, could only respond feebly to Yuenyi's advances. The interaction between the two made the air in the conference room become more relaxed. I have to admit that Chiuke can always play an inexplicable role in inexplicable places. Next is me, I'm Vice President Ross. I am Ariel, who is also the Vice President. Hey, are there 2 Vice Presidents? Tiruya asked. Ross and I have different divisions of labor. He is mainly responsible for handling some chores in the academy, while I am responsible for all the work that requires brain use. Ariel, can you please stop calling the important responsibility of maintaining security in the school a chore? Ross reluctantly protested. Judging from his attitude, this was probably not the first time such a protest had been made. Sorry. Ariel apologized readily, but didn't seem to be really reflecting on it. Ahem. The girl sitting next to her interrupted the cross-talk between Rose and Ariel in this way. Everyone from Frost Moon Academy, the IQ of those 2 people is below the average of all members of our student union. Please don't, we will use them as the standard to evaluate our overall situation. By the way, I am the accountant of the student union, Jialu. Please give me some advice during this time. She bowed her head slightly in greeting before sitting down. I'm sorry, it's our first meeting. We may be a little nervous. The last girl who introduced herself in the student union stood up. My name is Riley, and I am the accountant of the student union. Although I hold this position, there are still many things I can do. They are not good enough. If there is anything that makes you dissatisfied, please tell me directly and I will accept it with an open mind. There's something I'm concerned about. Lilu's eyes, which seemed to be awake, showed interest. Why is little Riley wearing the same uniform as Rose? What kind of special trial is this? After Lilu reminded them, everyone noticed that Riley, who had smooth short hair, was wearing the men's uniform of Tiburai Prince Academy. It seemed that Riley didn't understand Lelou's question, as her eyes turned into 2 circles. Haha, that's it, Yuenyi suddenly laughed, and she waved her hands to everyone in Chiyu Academy. Don't mind this, you will get used to it just by looking at it. But the president, Riley, Kinyua, and Milia are still waiting for you. Yuenyi motioned her to sit down without letting her finish her words, and Riley had no choice but to obey the student council president's words in frustration. The remaining two first-year girls did not move after Riley took his seat. They quietly motioned to each other with their eyes to be the first to eat the crab. "Kinua, Milia, there is nothing to be nervous about," Unyi encouraged them from the side. "Besides, haven't you been practicing for a long time? Saying it in front of so many people is hardly an encouragement at all. It will only make them feel even more ashamed. The most frightening thing is that the president who said such words has no idea about it." At this moment, she probably thought that she had accomplished what she was supposed to do as a senior, and was immersed in a sense of satisfaction. I am Kinua, first grade. Milia is also a first grader." Finally, the self-introductions of the two first-year students ended in an awkward atmosphere. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 100. At the end of the meeting, the two student presidents agreed to take everyone to visit the academy in the afternoon to familiarize themselves with the basic layout of the entire Tiburai Wangli Academy. In the next month, everyone will treat this place as their own academy, so first of all, they should try not to get lost in the huge academy. It took a whole afternoon to walk around the entire Tiburai Royal Academy. When we returned to the dormitory building, it was almost completely dark. Yuanyi-san, it turns out you live above us." The girls didn't suddenly realize this fact until they stood in front of the dormitory building together. Chiuke happily held Yuanyi's hand. "If you have time, come and have fun with us." Okay. Yuanyi seemed a little unaccustomed to Chiuke's natural familiarity. She looked blankly at the steady vice president of Xuanjiao Academy for help. "Isn't this nice?" Tyruya lived up to her expectations and nodded with satisfaction. "Way 11, classmate," Yuanyi agreed. Chiuke blinked at Way 11, who was standing blankly, with a smile on her face. She squeezed closer to Aika and grabbed his sleeves. Go. Aika gently placed her palm on the back of Way 11's hand, and then took her hands away from her cuffs. "If you work hard, I will reward you." In order to relieve Way 11's nervousness, Aika had to use the most tempting word for children. After being let go by Aika, Way 11's expression turned a little depressed for a moment. But after Aika said that word, she seemed to have expectations. "Award? As long as it is within the scope of my ability, anything is fine." Aika raised a finger towards Way 11, "but there can only be one reward, so you must think about it well." Way 11 didn't respond, still looking up at Aika with big moist eyes. Aika read something from Way 11's eyes, and he sighed helplessly. 2. No more. Way 11 then showed a cute smile, whispered good night to Aika, then trotted back to the circle of girls and disappeared with them at the entrance of the girls' dormitory building. When did this kid learn this trick? Being looked at by that kind of look will melt even a stone-hearted person. Classmate Aika, do you have that kind of relationship with classmate Wuxi? Of course not. This voice suddenly sounded from behind, and Aika immediately defended herself with a panic attitude that she couldn't understand. Riley stood there with her hands behind her back and a smile. From the beginning, she had been watching Aika and Way 11 with warm eyes. It was not until Way 11 left that she spoke to Aika, who had been looking at the direction in which she disappeared. "But the atmosphere between you seems to be very good. Even when we visited the academy in the afternoon, she never left your side." What should I say about that? If she were replaced by Ling and Luoluo, she would still not leave. Sorry, I forgot to explain. Luoluo is my sister, and Ling is my friend like Way 11. So this is Riley nodded in understanding. Besides, Way 11 is surrounded by people older than her, so there is nothing we can do about feeling unnatural. It seems I misunderstood. Riley lowered his head in embarrassment. I have brothers and sisters in my own family, and this happens occasionally. Haha, Luoluo was like this when he was a child, always clinging to me, but now he feels like a mother. Please don't say this in front of your sister. While Aika was chatting with Riley, she followed Xiao and Ross towards the boys' dormitory building. Xiao and Rose's personalities seemed to get along very well, and they became good friends in one afternoon. With a slight sense of violation, Aika was thinking about the source of this sense of violation while joking. Etc. What's wrong, Aika-san? Riley cooperated with Aika and stopped, and the two people walking in front also turned their heads. Classmate Riley, don't you have any plans to return to your dormitory yet? I'm going back to the dormitory. Riley tilted her head slightly, which looked very cute. Well, a little further on is the boys' dormitory. Rather, why didn't you go back with them just now? Of course it's not because I thought it would be troublesome to go with you. Haha, classmate Aika, what are you talking about? Riley showed a friendly smile. Ross and I are roommates. Didn't I say that? Did you say? Aika and Riley looked at each other. Ross came over and patted Aika on the shoulder. To be precise, Riley only lived in the same room as me during the exchange and study period. Others also arranged it this way. Wait a minute. Aika pressed her forehead, unable to turn her head around for a while. Even if it is a temporary arrangement, this is too unreasonable. In fact, a possibility has come to mind, but Aika couldn't accept it in her heart, so she deliberately ignored that possibility. Aika-san. Riley spoke softly, causing Aika to move her eyes to her. In the evening breeze, Riley's already thin body looked even more frail, and even the coat on his body seemed a bit too wide. She used her right hand to hold the arm of her left hand hanging naturally, and looked at the ground under her feet. Actually, I'm sorry, Aika bowed his head and apologized first. Actually, I know some people are unwilling to say that kind of thing. I just saw you asking about Way 11 and me, and I mistakenly thought that you didn't actually care very much that kind of thing. It doesn't matter, love is free. I will pretend that I didn't see anything or hear anything, and you two can just go on as usual. He mechanically bowed his head to greet Rose, then walked quickly to the front, pushing Xiao's shoulder, preparing to return to the dormitory building first. Classmate Aika, I think I really don't care very much about the things you said. You must have misunderstood another aspect. Riley is a boy, right? Xiao, who was pushed forward, said the real answer that Aika didn't want to hear. Actually, I had long thought that you had some misunderstanding about Riley. I saw you and him in the afternoon. When I speak with that attitude, it's basically confirmed. I was planning to tell you when I get back to the room, but if I don't say it now, it seems like it will become very troublesome. What? It turns out you've always cared about this kind of thing. Ross also spread his hands. This guy is really easy for people to misunderstand when they meet him for the first time, haha. Riley is a boy, Riley is a boy, Riley is a boy, Riley is a boy, Riley is a boy. This sentence circled tirelessly in Aika's mind, and he even felt that the world around him had undergone subtle changes. This is acceptable, gender and so on. Hey. Aika-san, although I don't know what you are thinking about, but it feels very dangerous, so come back right away. Xiao grabbed the collar of Aika's coat and shook his body back and forth. Aika's head swayed feebly with Xiao's shaking, as if her soul was out of body. The new world is probably very beautiful, so Aika would never leave. That, Aika-kun. After learning Riley's true gender, Aika felt that his voice was somewhat androgynous. But this kind of voice paired with such a cute face still doesn't seem quite right. I have wanted to explain this misunderstanding to you for a long time, but our president has always taken away my opportunity to explain. This is the real reason why Yuanyi-san never strays away from Riley-san when she takes everyone to visit the academy. That sounds like I'm looking for an excuse. Anyway, I'm very sorry. Riley lowered his head to Aika, his short gray hair hanging down by gravity, and he reached out to pull the hair behind his ears. This action is so weird. Although Riley himself worked very hard to emphasize his gender, every move he made was to subvert his own words. Riley is indeed an out-and-out boy, and he doesn't hesitate at all when it's time to take action. When I first met him in the first grade, I had the same feeling as you. Now, haha, it's been a long time. You'll know. Ross patted Ika on the shoulder generously, abruptly pulling him back to reality from the illusory new world. Riley watched Ika's reaction carefully. No, 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 classmate Riley, I don't have any special opinion about you. Ika was stared at by Riley's petty eyes, and she hurriedly shook her hand at him. It's just, it's a bit of a big shock, even if I now know you are a boy, but... Ika desperately searched for the right words to describe it in her mind, but in the end she could only use the simplest words to describe the feeling in her heart. So cute. Ika, wake up. This kind of thinking is very dangerous. Even Ross, who had a hearty smile just now, suddenly turned livid when he heard Ika's heartfelt feelings. We're here to interrupt. Yuanyi took the lead and walked into Chiuke and Wei 11's room. Tilyuya and Lilu were already waiting for them in the room. Ariel, Jialu, Kinyua, and Milia followed closely behind the student council president, and they all nervously greeted the four girls from Frost Moon Academy. When they separated in the stairwell, Yuanyi asked whether they should hold a pajama party to enhance their relationship. Chiuke naturally raised his hands in approval, and everyone else nodded in agreement. Even Wei 11 did not show any obvious resistance. So, now 9 girls are crowded into this small dormitory room. It didn't feel cold inside the house, so Yuanyi placed the big bag he brought on the mat spread on the wooden floor. Hee, I secretly left some snacks in the room and brought them over. Yuanyi showed an embarrassed smile. You must not mention tonight's events in front of the instructors in our academy. Although the president keeps eating every night, the number of snacks in the room has never decreased. It's incredible. There was no sense of uncanny in Ariel's words. Ariel. I'm not as greedy as you say. Yuanyi pulled Ariel's cheek mercilessly, as if it could be stretched for a long time. Do Ganyi-san and Ariel-san usually live in the same room? It's just a bad fate. Yuanyi let go of Ariel's hand, leaving her shouting it hurts so much. Aside, I can't hide even if I want to. So good. Wei 11's voice leaked out, and Kinya couldn't understand the meaning of her words. Senior sister Wei 11, Shimatsuki Academy also decides on roommates for 3 years when they are in first grade, right? Her situation is a little different. Lilu sat on the edge of the bed and swayed her feet. For specific information, please consult the guardian who is traveling with her. Lilu-kun, don't say that. Wei 11's cheeks turned red and her eyes were filled with tears as she knocked on Leilu's body. Guardian, Milia thought for a moment. Does it mean Senior Ika? Could it be that? Ariel fell into deep thought. I really want to understand something. Don't understand without authorization. Wei 11's defensive voice became less and less confident. Because what Lilu revealed is indeed irrefutable. To some extent. Keiki-san, is it okay to eat all of these? Probably because he felt that if Seiji continued to tease Wei 11, she might cry in front of everyone. Tairuya changed the subject in time, opened the big bag, and placed all the contents on the doily. Chiuke, Wei 11 and Leilu sat beside the bed, while the other girls sat on the ground around a round cushion. There wasn't much cool air coming out of the wooden floor, and the lively atmosphere made the air temperature inside the room rise. It's okay. Class officially starts tomorrow. Let's relax completely tonight. Well, there is something I am more concerned about. Kinya raised her hand timidly at this time. What are you going to do in class? Don't you know either? Tairuya showed a surprised expression. The invited students of Shimazuki Academy did not get enough information. Originally, she expected to learn some details from the students of Wangli Academy. We are not very clear about this kind of thing, Yuanyi shook his head helplessly. At the meeting that informed us of this matter, it was only explained that students from the two academies would be merged into one class, and then the students from both sides would be instructors will teach, and it seems there will be collaborative projects such as outdoor practice. That's all we know. Speaking of which, why are we the only ones participating in such an important event? Chiuke bit the chocolate-covered biscuit stick like a hamster. Generally speaking, exchange and learning are not attended by students from the entire academy. Really? Ah, but this is my first time to participate in this kind of event. I just heard about it, and it's a little different from what I remember. I think your impression is correct, Yuanyi agreed with Chiuke's opinion. I have also thought about why there are so few students participating. The main purpose of this exchange study seems to be to show it to the citizens of the Tiburai Kingdom. Moreover, to a certain extent, the student union can guide the development direction of a school. Considering these 2 points, it is probably I think we want both parties to learn from each other and at the same time have a publicity effect. That said, it seems understandable. Ariel suddenly reached out and snatched a candy from Jialu. Wait a minute, I'll trade this with you. After she grabbed the candy, she placed another flavor of candy in front of Jialu. No, give that back to me. Let's change it. This one is also very sweet. The one you took was sour, and I never said I wanted something sweet. Not long after, Chiuke also jumped down from the bed and joined the battle. Senior Sister Wei 11, do you have time to chat with us? Kinyu and Milia left the circle and sat in the seats that originally belonged to Chiuke. Both of them seemed a little nervous during their self-introduction and the fun they had just had, but when they spoke to Wei 11, they were not as nervous as before. If I could. Wei 11 vaguely agreed to their request and moved slightly to give them more space. Senior Sister Wei 11, can you tell us about the Bizi Empire? Milia came closer to Wei 11, her big eyes filled with longing for the unknown. Bes Empire, are you interested? Milia and I have longed for the Bis Empire since we were children. If we have the opportunity in the future, we hope to go sightseeing with our family, so we want to know more about it in advance. I rarely leave home. The president and Senior Tairua must know more than me. But Kinyu wanted to speak but stopped. Senior Sister Wei 11 has a very cordial feeling. Yes, yes. Wei 11 tilted her head in embarrassment, but her joy was directly conveyed to the two first-year students. In fact, Milia felt the same atmosphere from Wei 11 as her sister at home, so she was able to communicate like this without any psychological barriers. However, there is no need to specify this. As long as Senior Sister Wei 11 feels happy, everything will be fine. With such high expectations from the two senior students, Wei 11 decided to show off her side as a senior. She was sitting on the bed facing Kinyu and Milia. Ahem, after pretending to cough, Wei 11 opened one eye slightly, and the two schoolmates looked at her with interest. In that case, I will tell you everything I know. Wei 11's erect penis seemed to be inferior to that of her schoolmate. No matter how she tightened her arms, she could not squeeze out the ravine she had been hoping to see for so many years. But this is not important. Life experience can reflect a person's true mind. Wei 11 gained inexplicable confidence from the expectant eyes of the schoolmates, and she placed her hands on her knees in a regular manner. At this moment, she is Senior Sister Wei 11 as a senior in life. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 101. Phyllis, when do you think it will start? Whether it's early or late, there are reasons that can be explained, so I don't know. I thought I could count on you. I am not omniscient and omnipotent. There is a tutor in Frost Moon Academy who may be able to help, but due to personal reasons, she cannot accompany you. For such an important matter, even if you use your authority, you should forcefully bring her here, right? Shimizuki Academy doesn't have such a strict superior-subordinate relationship as you. Even I don't have that right. Hey, let's not talk about this matter for now. We are also prepared to deal with it. There should be no problem in adapting to the situation. There is another thing I want to ask you. Huh? I'm listening. That girl with white hair seems to have a special identity. Oh, are you also fascinated by her? I can understand that even I, who was regarded as a cold-blooded representative during the cross-border war, wanted to hug her tightly the first time I saw her. I didn't investigate her for such a boring reason. It's true that she has a special identity. She was once a Blue Knight affiliated with the Holy See of the Bes Empire. You probably found this out, right? One more thing, since you are the only one here, I ask directly. It is said that she took action against people from the Holy See. Is this true? This is what you care about, what is going on? I don't know much about the Holy See. What I know is probably not much different from what you found out. I just treat it like this. Things are fine. Principal Phyllis brushed off the other party's confusion with a nonchalant attitude. I really admire your ability to lie without blinking an eye. She and Principal Phyllis are old acquaintances. The conversation has reached this point, and there will be no progress in continuing to push the topic. She understood this, and even though she knew Principal Phyllis was definitely hiding a lot of things, she didn't think there was anything to worry about. If that's true, I can't do anything to help her. I can only feel sorry for her. You're thinking too much. And there's no need for you to do that. Principal Phyllis stood up from the table and drank all the wine in her glass. Her family probably won't feel sorry for her, because regret is not even as powerful as a word of encouragement. When she first left the Holy See, she had to rely on the support of others to move forward. Now she can let go supporting hands. Family. Isn't Wei 11 an orphan? Next time you take your students to Shiyu Academy for a tour, you will understand a lot of things. Principal Phyllis walked to the door and made a sign to leave. Come with me. Unfortunately, it seems that it won't work. I still have some unfinished business. It's really a pity. I originally wanted to go out with you for a supper or something. Forget about late night snacks, give me the money for tonight's drinks first. Principal Phyllis walked outside silently and closed the door. Will, I want to sleep. The girl's hand dragging the stuffed bear was drooping, and her sleepy eyes seemed to be closing at any moment. Hold on, Misty, there are definitely rooms available in the hotel. Although Misty's eyes were almost narrowed to a slit, Will still felt that the gaze piercing her body was filled with resentment. Besides, it's all my fault, sister. She said she had booked a room for us, but our names are not on the list at all. Of course it can't have our names. Misty kicked Veer hard in the calf. In fact, it didn't hurt, but Will still made a painful expression, which made the angry child feel much better. Misty, don't worry. Before the end of today, I will let you take a comfortable bath and then lie on the bed and have a good sleep. Veer vowed, but Misty remained unmoved. You're tired, carry me. Wake me up after you find a place to live. Misty kicks Veer again. In desperation, Will had no choice but to squat down and carry Misty on his back. Misty, who was lying on her back, quickly fell into a deep sleep, breathing softly on the back of Will's neck, and the warm breath made his movements sluggish for a moment. The snow season has passed, and the beauty of snowfall a month ago has become difficult to see again. Neither Will nor Misty could catch up with that season, which was a bit regretful. Oops. I glanced at the time displayed on the PDA and saw that it was only a few dozen minutes away from the agreed 0 o'clock. Will quickly hugged the sleeping Misty tightly and took steps toward the hotel he had not yet inquired about. Fortunately, there was no snow on the road, otherwise it would be really difficult to walk with Misty. Thinking of this, the newly born feeling of regret weakened slightly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 102. The energy supply of the Tiburai Kingdom is mainly electricity, and the Tiburai Royal Academy is certainly no exception. The energy needed for daily life, including lighting and heating, is all provided by electricity, and the required electricity comes from the energy center of the royal capital. Generating electricity through solar energy, wind power, and water power is the basic way for human beings to survive before the magic conversion technology matures. Now, it's bedtime. The most obvious manifestation of a power outage is the sudden drop in indoor temperature. When she was sleeping, she kicked off the quilt, Chiuke sneezed a little, and she woke up from her sleep. He groped around on the bed in a daze, but the quilt had already fallen to the ground. Coupled with the cold temperature, Chiuke's sleepiness quickly dissipated. She walked slowly to the table, took out a piece of tissue from the paper box, and wiped her red nose. A shiver ran through her body, but she ignored it and walked into the bathroom. After a while, there was the sound of flushing water, and Chiuke returned to the room. She put the quilt that was lying alone on the ground back on the bed, then got into the quilt and continued to sleep soundly. Tairuya woke up at this time just because she had a strange dream. Now I can't remember the specific content of the dream. I have the impression that Chiuke and Wei 11 are doing something, and I can only watch blankly from the side, unable to move as if my body has been filled with glue. Because it felt so awkward, she opened her eyes suddenly. There is a dark ceiling in front of me. I can no longer experience the feeling in my dream again. I close my eyes, but my mind is slightly clear. I felt the cold air on my cheeks. With an inexplicable anger, Tairuya got out of bed wrapped in pajamas and checked whether the heater was working seriously. It's bright, why isn't it bright? Tairuya kept pressing the start button of the heater with some annoyance, but the red indicator light never came on, and warm air did not blow out from the air outlet. She checked again to see if the plug was plugged in properly and found no problem. Is there a power outage? She mentally apologized to Lilu, who hadn't woken up yet, and then turned on the light switch. The expected lights did not come on. It was dark outside the window, and the street lights in Wangli Academy also stopped working. Fortunately, it's night now, so the circuit will probably be repaired early tomorrow morning. Tairuya did not continue to dwell on this issue and returned to bed. Just taking advantage of the momentum, I had been messing around for a while, and the feeling of fatigue came back to me again. She covered her mouth and let out a big yawn, and her eyelids suddenly became sour. Sleep. Being surrounded by warmth, Tairuya's consciousness became increasingly blurred. However, the anxiety in his heart still did not dissipate, and half of the blood in his body was agitated with excitement. Tairuya has half of the vampire blood. If you are a pure blood, you will be more energetic at night than during the day. Tairuya can still maintain the same schedule as ordinary humans, thanks to the genetic information from her mother. Having an older sister who serves as the captain of the Imperial City Defense Bureau, Tairuya has developed extremely sharp nerves even if she doesn't want to. She tried her best to count the girls with animal ears that just skipped through her mind, but to no avail. At this time, the cute little animals suddenly dispersed, and a trace of noise invaded this wonderful circle in Tairuya's mind. Xiao was lying on the bed, scrolling through the PDA screen out of boredom. The columns he followed were actually just some news that was not true or false, but Xiao was not interested in these things. It was just to pass the time between going to bed and falling asleep. With the pure blood of the vampire clan flowing in his body, although he tried hard to adjust his biological clock, it was still very difficult to fall asleep at night. Seeing Ika snoring next to her, Xiao felt a little envious. The heater had stopped working, and Xiao could already feel it through her hands exposed outside the quilt. Plug the PDA's charging cable into the plug beside the bed. The remaining power of the PDA did not increase. Xiao was sure that there was a power outage. Unlike Shimazuki Academy, the energy supply of all equipment in Tiburai Wangli Academy relies on electricity. It is said that there are also energy supply facilities underground that can convert magic power. However, because it has not been used and checked for a long time, it has long been used with scrap iron. Put an equal sign. For Tiburai Wangli Academy, a power outage is equivalent to stopping all functions of the academy. Akatsuki, who takes everything seriously, cannot silently condemn the staff who manage the facility. This does not mean that he can accept this excuse, but because this time is temporarily occupied by a group of uninvited guests. Hey, Aika-san, get up quickly. Xiao tried to wake up her sleeping roommate while putting on the uniform hanging on the wall. There is something very important. You should change your clothes immediately. Xiao pulled Aika out of bed without any explanation, and then threw his uniform on the bed. A cold feeling quickly spread over Aika's hands and feet. This was the most effective way to dispel sleepiness. Wei 11 also used this method to forcefully wake him up, but her method was much gentler than Xiao's. Aika vaguely recalled the scene at that time. It's something very important. What is it? He put his arms into his sleeves and buttoned the front button. Are you getting dressed to go out? Of course it would be great if I could go out. Huh? What does this mean? You may not have discovered it yet, at least I'm sure. Xiao's magic power covered the entire room, and the familiar sticky feeling made Aika cover her mouth, feeling a little breathless. There are probably at least 3 people outside the door. If you want to get out, you have to jump from the window. Xiao kept her voice low and covered the room with her magic power so that no one outside the door would notice. Do you know the other party's purpose? Aika knew that there was no need for Xiao to say unfounded words to scare herself. Now that he was ready, Aika had to show his own attitude. The blazing eyes turned into twin guns in his hands, and Aika checked the status of the magic equipment. Do you still remember what Tilyuya told you when you came here? I seem to remember. Aika recalled what Tilyuya said in the car that came to greet him that day. There is civil strife in the kingdom of Tiburai, a dispute between 2 parties, right? That's it? They don't know when something's going to happen. Long story short, does your PDA work? After hearing this, Aika took out his PDA, but no signal was displayed on it. Seeing this situation, Aika immediately understood what was causing this. In the airship accident, the PDA was also paralyzed as it is now. Sure enough, the same is true for you. Xiao roughly understood the situation. It would be great if Tiruya could also discover this situation. Her room is next to the president's room, but if someone blocks the door, it can be difficult to take care of both sides. Wei 11. Aika picked up the PDA and quickly searched for Wei 11's contact address. Later, she realized that there was no signal and she could not be contacted at all. Calm down, let's solve the problem on our side first, and then it's too late to help them. Those people are not fanatical believers, they can be called scholars with some brains, and they should not do anything too extreme. Matter. Xiao's words calmed down the possibility that Aika was most worried about at this time. The hand holding the PDA dropped, and Aika tightened his grip on the gun handle again. I probably understand a little bit about why it's like this. If you think about it for a while, you can understand that the technology party is not preparing to seize power with arms, but to publicize the legitimacy of its own ideas to the outside world. If it is not popular among the people, it will naturally not go as smoothly as it wishes. So they should not behave in extreme ways. But even so, Aika was not willing to let her fall into this boring dispute and become a needless victim. Only once would be enough for something like that. No, if time could go back, Aika would swear not to let it happen the first time. Senior Xiao, what should we do now? Try to avoid direct confrontation. If I'm alone, I can jump out of the window, and it shouldn't be too difficult to take you with me. This is the third floor. This height is nothing. The president can easily jump out. From a human perspective, I don't quite understand your worldview. They started to move. Don't worry so much, just open a hole there. Can you do it? No longer worried about being heard by the other party, Xiao put away the magic power covering the room. The magic power released from Ika's gun easily blew away the entire window and the surrounding bricks and tiles. Xiao pulled him to her side. Hold on to me. Then he ran towards the exposed hole and jumped. From the corner of her eye, Ika saw the door being violently kicked open and unknown men rushing in. At this time, the vision was obscured by the bloody magic power. Xiao used his own magic power to wrap the two of them into it, becoming a buffer when they landed. Don't stand there, start running now, Xiao supported Ika, who was a little uncomfortable for the first time. There are more than just a few of them, and I don't know which place is safe, so run to a place with fewer people. Ika tried her best to adjust her condition and ran closely behind Xiao. In the past few days, they had become fully familiar with the layout of Wangli Academy. Xiao and Ika were running between the buildings. In the silent night, the footsteps of the two people reflected on the walls, and the sound echoing in their ears increased the uneasiness in their hearts. Are they coming for us? Ika confirmed to Xiao while running. That's probably it. Xiao's tone was definitely not relaxed, and sweat streaked across his forehead. Would it be safer outside the academy? There may be people guarding the exit of the academy. They will definitely think of the possibility of our escape, and then take more precautions in this regard. If we want to hide, it will be safer here. The wood is hidden in the forest. Does this mean? Ika noticed his carelessness. Xiao obviously thought about many aspects more than him. How about the teaching building? I should be able to hide there for a while. The three teaching buildings of Wangli Academy are connected to each other, and there are dozens of classrooms on each floor. In the teaching building at night, the sound of footsteps is particularly harsh. If the other party wants to check the classrooms, they can detect it immediately. Good advice. The two figures turned between the buildings. In front of the door of teaching building number 1, Xiao slashed her wrist with the dagger she carried and sprinkled her blood on the flower bed next to her. Senior Xiao. If Tilyuya passes by here, she will know our location. The blood of the vampires can become a tool for exchanging information between the same clan at certain times. But she is not a pure blood, so I don't know how much role she can play. After doing this, Xiao immediately turned around and returned to the teaching building. Tairua was not as thoughtful as Akatsuki, but she also covered the room with her own special magic power. However, this is not to cover one's own aura, but to face the enemy. When the other party rushed into the room, the sticky magic took away their consciousness in a few seconds. Rilu was still putting on her uniform hurriedly behind Tairua, when another set of footsteps came from the corridor. Lilu, let's get out of here first, please. If there are two people, the time may become shorter. 4 slender thin wings spread out from Lilu's back. The wings of the elves were just condensed magic power and had no substance. Hey! None of you are allowed to. The other 3 men rushed into the room, pointing the muzzles of their old submachine guns into the room, and then looked surprised. Their companions were lying on the floor of the room, but the 2 girls who were the targets were not in the room. Find the person. They roughly opened the closet, lifted up the sheets, and tried to use the momentum of turning the entire house upside down to find the hiding girl. The 2 men, who were blessed with Lelu elf magic, had quietly left the room from where the men were standing just now. Image. The hallucination technique that can only be used by the elves will not be interfered by the elimination and debuff magic, so it is classified as magic by humans and is not included in the magic sequence list like Tilyua's blood control technique. The technique used by Lilu is only the most basic application of hallucination. If too complex techniques are used, it will increase the burden on Lilu's body and have a certain impact on the escape operation. Fortunately, the other party did not close the door when he rushed in, otherwise he would have been suspicious when he saw the closed door automatically opening. Coming to the corridor, other men's voices could be heard from the open door next to them. Chiuke and Wei 11 might have been caught. Although he was very reluctant, he did not have enough ability to bring them out together. When Lilu's magic is used on the two of them, it only lasts for a few dozen seconds. During this time, you must first ensure the safety of yourself and her, and then you can think of other countermeasures. Feel sorry. Tyrua gritted her teeth and looked away from the open door, running towards the emergency stairs. Lilu followed Tyrua silently, words of comfort were already on her lips, but she did not speak. Now she must try her best for what only she can do. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 103. Go in and stay there and I won't hurt you. Kinyu and Milia, who still didn't know what happened, cuddled up on the bed tremblingly. Hearing the man's voice, they timidly raised their heads and looked towards the door. Yuanyi, Ariel and Jialu were held at gunpoint and pushed into the room. Senior. The two of them shouted in unison. Kinyu, Milia, those people didn't do anything to you, right? Yuanyi quickly walked to the bed and checked the bodies of the two schoolmates. Seeing that there were no obvious injuries, he breathed a sigh of relief. They just burst in and asked us to sit together and didn't do anything else. Senior Yuanyi, what happened? Their bodies were shivering, not knowing whether it was because of the cold or fear. Yuanyi hugged them tightly and explained briefly in their ears. Don't do anything, just listen to them and nothing will happen. We will find a way. Hey, what are you talking about in secret? The man came over and grabbed Yuanyi's arm and threw her onto another bed. You three sit together and don't move. They were all wearing thin pajamas at this time, so the three men guarding the room were not worried that they had threatening items on their bodies. Moreover, the students of Wangli Academy are generally not good at using magic. The release speed of basic magic is definitely slower than the bullet fired from the gun. Everyone understands this truth. Where are the others? Ariel dared to question one of the men with a gun. The man was not irritated, he just glanced at her lightly. The people in Frost Moon Academy are too dangerous and must be controlled. If you cooperate, at least they will not be hurt. Tisk. Ariel understands the situation of Chiuke and the others, but now she is helpless. The confused brain has not yet thought of a way out of the current situation. There were multiple footsteps coming from outside the room, and the visitor and the man whispered a few words. The man nodded and returned to the room. Two of them seemed to have run away. The remaining two became much more honest after being restrained with a pair of magic handcuffs. He said this deliberately to the girls. Feeling relieved and uneasy at the same time, everyone stared at the man with angry eyes. Don't look at me with such a scary look. The man shook the gun in his hand. If you wait until our matter is over, you children will be released. We are not terrorists who kill innocent people indiscriminately. Just for the sake of ideals, I have to do something that goes against my heart. The words sounded better than the singing. I almost believed it. Ariel pouted. Ariel. Giala grabbed Ariel's arm to stop her from provoking her anymore. Ariel's slender arms trembled slightly in her hands. Gialu lowered his head and leaned on her back. Just be patient for now. She murmured in a voice that only Ariel could hear. Teilua-senpai, where are we going? Find a place to hide first, then slowly, find a way. After running a short distance, both girls were out of breath. Tyrua stopped in the shadow of the tree trunk, holding her hands on the trunk and gasping for air. Lilu's situation was even more pessimistic than hers. The moment she stopped, her legs were paralyzed and she knelt on the ground. Here, Take a rest. Tyrua sat down against the tree trunk, no longer caring that her skirt was stained by the mud. In order to facilitate movement, neither of them put on jackets, and their sweat became biting in the cold wind. Tyrua felt her nose itching, so she quickly covered her nose with the tissue she had always kept in her pocket to stop herself from sneezing. Lilu also covered her mouth and didn't make a sound. Now the two sat disheveled in the bushes, sharing only a forced smile. The principals and tutors of the two academies do not live in the school buildings at night, and there is no way to ask them for help using PDAs. The security personnel may have all been subdued, so there is not much hope. The power outage caused all equipment that relied on electricity to be unusable. Even basic lighting in the school building could not be guaranteed, and the direction could only be roughly determined by the faint moonlight. Tyrua-senpai, I have no problem. After resting for a while, Lilu stood up on her knees. Her knees were a big red spot, which was a result of the scrapes she had just suffered when she fell. Tyrua stood up, bit her finger, and wiped her own blood on the red and swollen area. The wound gradually returned to its normal color. I'm sorry, Tyrua-senpai, for causing you more trouble. It doesn't matter how much you say after the frustrating talk is over. At least cheer up now. If you fall, you will really cause me big trouble. Well, thank you. Hearing Tyrua's circled words of concern, Lilu lowered her head and hid her smile under the shadow of her bangs. Lilu, where do you think it is easy to hide and find people approaching? A building with many rooms may be able to do this. But Lilu hesitated, if you are surrounded, it will be difficult to escape from inside. That's what dormitory buildings are like. Lilu's explanation was very reasonable, and she also used the incident she had just experienced as an example, making the hidden danger even more difficult to ignore. In that case, places like teaching buildings are not considered. Tyrua-senpai, do you know how many people there are in the other party? It's not difficult to use wide area detection magic, but... Tyrua thought for a moment, if they have equipment that can react to large-scale magic, our location will be exposed. So that's it? Even Tyrua had to take a break after using magic on a large scale, so she couldn't leave her current position immediately after finding out how many people there were. Lilu originally thought she had come up with a great solution, but if the first step could not be executed, the subsequent plans would become meaningless. Tell me what you think of. After hearing Tyrua's words, Lilu raised her head, her eyes full of doubts. Tyrua stood in front of Rilu and raised his hand to place it on her little head. But Tyrua didn't do this because Rilu was not a child who needed her to take care of her. Maybe you can find an unexpected breakthrough in your ideas. Although Rilu's age and experience are not as good as hers, Tyrua will never ignore every opinion she puts forward. During the year of working together in the student union, Tyrua has found completely different ideas from Lilu's thoughts that she spoke without any scruples more than once. She also understood that only by letting go of the rigid way of thinking can we learn more hidden new things. Therefore, Tyrua would not look at her like a schoolgirl. Lilu was her friend, and above all, she was a trustworthy partner. Obviously the number displayed on the PDA has not increased much, but Aika feels that the time has passed dozens of times. Xiao was now leaning against the door that was open a crack, alert to the movement in the corridor. He used the closed curtains as a cover and paid attention to the door of the teaching building. So far, those men have not noticed the movements of the two of them, and Aika has not seen anyone passing by the teaching building. Of course, so does Tyrua. Did she escape? Was Way 11 with her? These questions lingered in his mind, desperate for answers. However, the PDA without signal remained silent, and the expected figure did not appear. The curtains held by Aika had obvious wrinkles, and her nails dug into her palms through the fabric. The pain made Aika loosen her grip on the curtain, and the raised corner was covered by fabric. He flexed and stretched his stiff fingers repeatedly, and the blood flow gradually returned to normal, and the temperature returned to the cold palm. Xiao turned to look at Aika, and Aika shook her head. That group of people should have rushed into everyone's room at the same time, so as to have a surprise effect. If there is no obvious commotion outside now, one possibility is that only we have escaped, and the other possibility is that others have also escaped. I escaped from the dormitory, but because the search was very strict, I kept hiding somewhere and never came out. No matter which possibility it is, it makes people very uncomfortable. I know you are anxious now, and I feel the same way as you. But at this time, the more impatient you are, the slower your thinking will become. I think you still understand this simple truth, right? If you can't do it, I don't mind coming so that you don't have time to think about unnecessary things. Blood-red magic power danced on Xiao's fingertips. There was no trace of pity or ridicule in his eyes when he looked at Aika, as calm as a bottomless lake. Being stared at by Xiao's eyes like this, Aika realized her gaffe. But this kind of mood does not mean that you can calm down by calming down. Aika took a few big breaths and sucked the cold, unheated air into her lungs. After covering his mouth and coughing quietly for a few times, those troublesome thoughts were pushed to the corner of his mind. It seems you don't need my help anymore. Xiao put away the magic power on her fingertips. What a pity. If possible, I hope you never come to do this favor. Aika smiled, and Akatsuki responded with the same smile before returning her attention to the corridor again. Aika returned to the window and used the corner of the curtain to peek out the window. During this period of time, in addition to monitoring, their brains were running rapidly, looking for a solution to the predicament at hand. In a head-on collision with thermal weapons, they, as students, were completely helpless. As long as you are not a desperado, you will try your best to avoid things like eggs hitting rocks. Hiding until dawn, the principal and tutors may discover something unusual, so this is a safe way to consider. This is indeed a more reliable approach, but... Aika bit her lip and looked at Xiao, who suggested this calmly. They will also think of this, so they will definitely do something this night. It is simply impossible. We will wait until dawn as we wish. SHH, keep your voice down. Xiao closed the sliding door of the classroom and approached Aika. The problem now is that although we know that the other party is coming for us, and we can guess a little bit of the purpose, but other than that we don't know anything else. How many people there are, and whether they have any magic equipment, these issues should be taken into consideration before taking action. This is a basic course in our second grade. You haven't been exposed to it yet. It's not your fault. What I said may be a bit selfish, but the first person you have to consider now should be yourself. After ensuring this, you can then save other people. If you just want to satisfy that little bit of self-esteem, you include yourself. If you don't, you really can't get anything. There was no blame in Xiao's tone. He just put the argument in front of him so that Aika could understand. It was impossible for Aika to find a reason to refute these words. If you can't refute, you can't continue to have your own way. Xiao knows that Aika is not the kind of person who speaks forcefully. Of course I know this kind of thing very well. Quiet, Xiao suddenly made a SHH gesture. Someone is approaching this building. I'll go check it out. Aika gently returned to his responsible position. This time, he opened the curtains at a smaller angle, and then carefully looked out the window. Huh. The people standing in front of the teaching building and looking around were to some extent expected. Is it an enemy? Aika showed a relaxed expression and answered Akatsuki, who was exuding tension all over her body. It's Lilu. Relu. The tension disappeared from his side instantly, and Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. But... Aika hesitated for a moment, and Xiao urged him to speak quickly with her eyes. Tailua, who lives in the same room as her, doesn't seem to be with her.